What happens when Hollywood's most beloved nice guy hits his limit? On live TV, what happens when a talk show built on feel, good moments turns into a pressure cooker of accusation and ego? Today, we're diving into the shocking confrontation that no one saw coming. The jaw-dropping clash that ended with Keanu Reeves walking off the Drew Barrymore Show, leaving behind stunned silence and unanswered questions. This wasn't just another awkward celebrity moment. This was something deeper. The moment kindness hit its threshold. When authenticity ran headfirst into calculated cruelty. And when one of the industry's most respected, humble stars stood up. Not just from the couch, but for something bigger. Make sure you subscribe and leave a comment, because once you hear what really happened behind the scenes, you'll never look at daytime television or Drew Barrymore the same way again. The atmosphere backstage at the Drew Barrymore Show was its usual mix of nerves and glitter. Keanu Reeves sat quietly, dressed in his signature black suit, calmly scanning the prep sheet for what was supposed to be a routine interview about his new movie. He'd done this 100 times. Never flashy. Never difficult. Just Keanu, polite, soft-spoken, and always ready to meet fans with genuine warmth. A production assistant peeked in. "Mr. Reeves, we're ready for you." Keanu looked up with that familiar, gentle smile, the one that's melted audiences from Speed to John Wick. "Thank you," he said simply, and stood, jacket in place, expression serene. But as he walked the hallway lined with celebrity snapshots and past episodes, he had no idea what was waiting for him beyond the curtain. Because something was off today. Drew Barrymore stood just behind the stage, smiling, but not with her usual bubbly lightness. There was something harder in her eyes, calculating, like she had a point to make. "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the one and only Keanu Reeves." Applause thundered through the room as Keanu stepped out, humble and composed, taking his seat with that same quiet grace. "Thank you so much for being here," Drew began, her tone sugar-sweet. "But hollow, you look amazing." "I've been thinking about this interview for weeks," she continued, leaning in with practiced charm. "And you know, I think it's time people get to see the real Keanu, the man behind the myth, the secrets behind the smile." Keanu raised an eyebrow. A flicker of something unreadable crossed his face. "Well, I'm not sure about secrets," he said gently. "I've always tried to be transparent, about the work, about life. These interviews are about connection, right?" Drew tilted her head, smile tightening. "Oh, come on, Keanu. Let's not pretend. You've built a whole image. The humble motorcycle-riding Zen quoting good guy. But don't you think it's time to admit that's more branding than reality?" The energy in the room shifted. The audience tensed. This wasn't Drew. This was something else. Keanu blinked slowly. "I'm not sure what you're implying," he replied, voice still even but a degree cooler. "I just try to be myself. I work hard. I care about people. That's not some strategy." Drew let out a short, sharp laugh. "You can drop the act. We're both pros. You've been playing the same part for decades, the lonely hero with a heart of gold. But off camera, what's really there?" The mood grew heavier. This wasn't an interview. It was an interrogation. Keanu's jaw tightened. "Drew, I'm not performing right now. This is who I am. I've never claimed perfection. I don't hide my past. But I won't sit here and be accused of being some kind of fraud." "Oh, please," Drew shot back, voice rising. "You talk about fairness. Let's talk about all the actors who never got a chance because the studios were too busy feeding the Keanu machine. The brooding mystique. The humble hero narrative. It's all curated. You know it." A gasps and whispers rippled through the audience. Even the camera crew looked shaken. Keanu's hands, once calmly resting, clenched. "I don't know what this is," he said, low and firm. "But this isn't why I came here. I came to talk about a film. To connect with people. Not to be ambushed and insulted by someone I've always respected." Drew stood abruptly, pacing like a lawyer delivering closing arguments. "Oh no, Keanu. This is exactly the conversation they need to see. They need to see that you're no different than the rest of us, just better at pretending. She pointed directly at him. You're terrified, aren't you? That the illusion might break, that people might see the cracks. Keanu rose slowly, deliberately. The room fell silent. Drew, he said. Voice now stripped of any softness. I don't know what you're trying to prove, but I won't be a part of it. I came here in good faith. I showed up as myself, and I won't let you twist that into something ugly for ratings. And with that, he turned and walked off the stage. No outburst, no theatrics, just quiet dignity. The audience sat frozen. Even Drew, left standing alone under the studio lights, seemed unsure what had just happened. That moment would go viral within hours. Clips would circulate. The internet would light up with shock, outrage, and support. Because what happened that day wasn't just a breakdown in a talk show. It was a moment of truth. And when Hollywood's kindest soul finally drew the line, the world listened. There's the real Keanu Reeves. Drew sneered. Not so zen now, are you? Not so enlightened when someone actually pushes back, instead of just praising your carefully curated persona. The air in the studio thickened, charged with something volatile. This wasn't just a tough question. This was a full-blown confrontation, a dismantling, and every camera in the room was locked on Keanu, catching every shift in his expression as his legendary calm began to fracture. His hands trembled, his jaw tightened, his breath came slower, more measured. But the anger was there, real, visible, undeniable. He took a moment, then spoke, voice low but clear. Drew, I don't know what I've done to warrant this hostility. If you've got something personal against me, maybe we should talk about it off camera, rather than turning your show into a public takedown. Drew didn't sit. She gripped the back of her chair like it was a weapon. Personal, she snapped. Oh, Keanu, no. This isn't personal. This is professional. This is about truth in an industry that's drowning in performance. You've been the poster boy for realness for so long. People don't even know what genuine looks like anymore. Keanu's eyes flared. His voice rose. Not in rage, but in righteous fire. And you think genuine means setting someone up, attacking their integrity under the guise of an interview. You think it's authentic to turn a conversation into a public interrogation. The audience sat in stunned silence. No clapping, no laughter. Just the sound of tension thickening with every word. Drew smirked bitterly, pacing again. You want to talk about integrity? She shot back. Let's talk about how you've never once given a straight interview in your life. How you dance around every real question with vague philosophy. How your whole career is built on mystery and quiet brooding. While real actors, honest actors, can't get work because they don't sell fantasy the way you do. Keanu's face flushed. The cool, distant mask cracked. He leaned forward, voice sharp. You want to talk about honesty? Fine. What's honest about this? What's authentic about luring someone onto your show and ambushing them for drama? Drew slammed her hand on the desk. The sound cracked through the air like thunder. Good faith, she barked. You came here to sell a movie, to manipulate emotions, to keep your brand alive. Don't act like you're here out of some noble desire to connect. This is business, Keanu. Don't pretend it's anything else. Keanu's voice now had a steel edge, low and dangerous. Every actor promotes their work. That's part of the job. But there's a line between sharing and exploiting. And right now, you're the one crossing it. You're weaponizing your audience, turning them into spectators for a vendetta they never signed up for. Drew's eyes gleamed with something unhinged. Vendetta. You think I care enough about you to have a vendetta? Please. This is about principle, about calling out the hypocrisy that's poisoned this industry for decades. What hypocrisy? Keanu snapped, his composure finally snapping. What exactly are you accusing me of? Being respectful, being private, trying to protect a piece of myself in an industry that demands every inch of your soul. His voice was shaking now, but not from weakness, from fury. If that's hypocrisy, then yeah, I'm guilty. The cameras kept rolling. Studio staff stood frozen. Drew's hair was disheveled, her makeup beginning to smear. But she didn't stop. Privacy, she scoffed. You call it privacy, I call it calculation. Every glance, every word, every little act of vulnerability. All part of the Keanu Reeves brand. You've turned emotion into a currency, and people have bought it by the millions. Keanu stood. Tall, unapologetic, commanding. The room seemed to shrink beneath his presence. You don't know anything about me, Drew. Not the losses. Not the grief. Not the nights I've spent helping people with no camera in sight. Not the charities I've supported quietly. Not the times I've shown up because it mattered. Not because it would go viral. Drew rolled her eyes, full of venom. Oh, here we go. Keanu the saint. The quiet savior. Do you hear yourself? You sound like a PR machine. Every word perfectly polished for maximum sympathy. Keanu's voice dropped to a whisper, cold and deliberate. It's not rehearsed. It's my life. I don't talk about it because it's not for show. But maybe now, since you've made it your mission to dismantle me in front of a live audience, people should know what you're really doing here. Drew stepped closer, eyes blazing. She invaded his space, tried to provoke him, one last time. Then tell them about the tantrums, the backstage demands, the people you've walked over to get where you are. Keanu didn't blink. His voice, when it came, was deadly quiet. I don't have tantrums. And for the first time, Drew Barrymore had no comeback. I don't make unreasonable demands, Keanu said, his voice steady but coiled tight with frustration. And I have never, ever, stepped on anyone to get where I am. If you have evidence, show it. If not, stop slinging baseless accusations like it's entertainment. Drew let out a harsh, bitter laugh. Evidence. You know how this works, Keanu. In this industry, the truth gets buried. The stories disappear. NDAs get signed. But the people who've worked with you, they know. They've seen what you're really like when no one important is watching. Keanu's fists clenched at his sides. That's a lie, he snapped, his voice cracking with fury. A complete lie. Ask the crews. Ask the cast. Ask the directors. Ask the people who show up before sunrise and wrap after midnight. They'll tell you I show up. I know my lines. I respect everyone on that set. I give everything I've got. Not for a persona, but because that's the job. That's who I am. Drew's smile had lost any trace of charm. It was cold now, predatory. Of course they'll say that, she said, almost mockingly. You're Keanu Reeves, the untouchable saint of Hollywood. No one's going to risk their career telling the truth. They're scared. You think they dare go against the myth? The atmosphere in the studio was suffocating. Some audience members looked visibly shaken. A few quietly slipped out, but most stayed, too shocked to move, too captivated by the rawness of what was unfolding. Keanu stared her down. His voice dropped to a low, guttural whisper, thick with disgust. You're sick. You really are. If you believe everyone's just playing a part, if you think the whole world is that cynical, that's on you. Not me. You're projecting your own rot onto everyone else. Just because you operate that way doesn't mean we all do. Drew's expression twisted with fury. Don't you psychoanalyze me. Don't you stand there in your $1,000 suit, dripping with rehearsed humility, and tell me I'm the problem. I'm the only one in the studio telling the damn truth. Everyone else is too scared or too starstruck to say it. Keanu shook his head, his voice now trembling, not with fear but fury. No, you're not being truthful, Drew. You're being cruel. And there's a difference. You crossed that line a long time ago. This isn't some noble expose. This is about you. About tearing someone down because it feeds whatever twisted sense of power you're chasing. Drew stepped forward, her face just inches from his. You think this is power. You think I'm enjoying this, she hissed. You think I want to be the one to expose Hollywood's favorite fraud. No, But someone has to. And if no one else will do it, then I will. Keanu blinked in disbelief. Fraud. He repeated, his voice rising, incredulous. You're calling me a fraud? You ambush a guest, fabricate attacks, hurl accusations with no proof, and you call me the liar. He took a step forward now, his presence unmistakably dominant. Look in the mirror, Drew. Look at what you've become. You're not calling out hypocrisy, you are it. The studio had gone silent. Not a breath, not a cough. Everyone felt it, this moment, this rupture. Something irreversible had just happened. Drew's face contorted with something feral, part rage, part triumph, as if she'd finally cracked the surface of something she'd been clawing at for years. There it is, she spat. The real Keanu Reeves, angry, defensive, just like everyone else when the truth finally hits them in the face. How does it feel, huh? To have the mask torn off in front of a live audience. Keanu's breathing was heavy now, chest rising and falling as he tried to hold onto the last strands of composure. You think this is my mask breaking, he said, voice rough, raw. You think this is some big reveal. No, this is what it looks like when someone decent finally reaches their limit. When someone who's spent years trying to do the right thing gets pushed by someone who's forgotten what decency even is. And with that, Keanu turned toward the audience, not to explain himself, not to plead, but to stand in his truth. Still trembling, still human, but no longer silent. This is what it looks like when kindness meets cruelty, and finally says enough. Drew let out a sharp, barking laugh that echoed through the stunned studio. Kindness, she sneered. You call your carefully curated PR strategy kindness. You call years of image manipulation and fake humility kindness. The only thing you've ever been kind to is your bank account. And your ego. The words hit Keanu like punches. And something in him, something buried deep, snapped. You know what, Drew, he said, voice rising. You're right about one thing. I am angry. I'm angry I came here. I'm angry I thought you were still the person I once knew. Back when we were both nobodies, just trying to make something of ourselves. I'm angry that you've turned into someone who thinks ambush interviews and public humiliation count as journalism. Drew stepped even closer, eyes gleaming, flushed with the thrill of confrontation. Oh, spare me the righteous act, she spat. You knew what this business was when you signed up. It's about perception, control, telling people what they want to hear. You just got good at pretending you weren't playing the same game. Keanu's voice cracked with restrained rage. I didn't pretend anything, he shot back. I tried to be real in a world that punishes authenticity. I tried to live with some sense of decency in an industry that rewards cruelty. And because I didn't break myself for the cameras, I'm the fraud. Drew's producer was flailing from the sidelines now, motioning to cut, but she was beyond reach. Yes, she screamed, unhinged. Because you sold the biggest lie of all, that someone could be famous, adored, and still be good. You conned millions into believing that myth. But it's all smoke, Keanu. You're the greatest illusion Hollywood ever pulled. Keanu's hands trembled. His face flushed. The calm that had defined him for decades had shattered. You want to know what the real con is, Drew, he said, his voice cutting like steel. You, this show, this act. The whole sweetheart routine masking the bitter, petty person underneath. You've built a career tearing people down while smiling to their faces. You're not brave. You're venom in a velvet dress. The audience gasped. Some stood to leave. Others just stared, mouths agape, witnessing something far beyond daytime drama. Drew's face twisted, seething. Unlikable, she echoed. Maybe. But at least I'm real. I don't hide behind some fake spiritual monologue about pain and purpose. I don't sell grief like it's part of a marketing package. Keanu's voice cracked, raw and trembling. Those aren't monologues, Drew. They're reflections. From a man who's lived through loss, real loss, who had to bury his future and still get up the next day. Those words, they came from pain, not packaging, But you wouldn't know the difference, would you? You perform suffering. I survived it. Drew went ghost white. Don't you dare lecture me on pain, she hissed. You've monetized your grief at every turn. You've turned death into currency. And now you stand there and call me fake. Keanu's tone dropped to a chilling whisper. That's it, he said. You've crossed a line I won't ignore. I will not stand here while you weaponize the deaths of people I loved. I won't let you turn my grief into content. He turned to walk off. Oh, you're done, Drew snarled. Walking away the moment someone finally tells the truth about you. That's convenient, Keanu. How heroic. He stopped, turned, and this time his fury was ice. The truth, he said. Here's the truth, Drew. You are a bitter, hollow person, desperate to feel powerful by dismantling others. You're not seeking honesty. You're seeking destruction. You've become the very thing this industry rots from. Poison posing as principal. Drew laughed, a bitter, joyless sound. And you're everything fake about it. You're the bedtime story people tell themselves so they can believe in good men behind glass screens. Keanu nodded slowly. Maybe I am a story, he said quietly. But if I represent hope, what does it say about you that you're so determined to destroy it? Why does goodness threaten you so much? For the first time all day, Drew couldn't speak. The silence stretched. The cameras hummed. No one moved. Keanu stepped forward again, not with anger, but something deeper, something close to pity. You know what the real tragedy is, he said. You used to be someone worth knowing. You had heart, humor, a light in you. But somewhere along the way, you started mistaking cruelty for strength. You started believing that breaking people down was the only way to lift yourself up. Drew's voice shook with rage. Don't you dare pity me. Don't act like you're better than me. We came from the same machine. Keanu shook his head slowly. We may have come from the same place, but we didn't make the same choices. I'm trying to live with integrity. I try to be honest without humiliating others. You ambush guests for ratings. Drew took one final, venomous step forward. Out, she growled. Get off my stage, and take your holier than thou garbage with you. Keanu stared at her for a long beat. When he finally spoke, it was with quiet heartbreak. I feel sorry for you, Drew. Truly. For whatever you lost that made you like this. I hope one day you find it again. He turned and walked away, slow and deliberate. The cameras followed him past stunned crew members, past the shell-shocked audience. At the edge of the stage, Keanu paused, turned back one last time. For what it's worth, I forgive you, he said. I don't understand you, and I don't think you were right. But I forgive you anyway. I hope someday that matters to you. And with that, Keanu Reeves walked off the Drew Barrymore Show, leaving behind a studio full of shattered illusions and a host whose mask had finally, irreversibly, slipped. The cameras kept rolling. Drew stood alone, her chest heaving, her set cold, her silence deafening. The audience didn't know whether to clap, to cry, or to leave in stunned silence. What they had just witnessed wasn't television. It was two public personas burned to the ground, leaving behind nothing but raw, uncomfortable truth. That was the day Keanu Reeves walked away. The day Hollywood's kindest soul met, someone who mistook cruelty for courage, and chose to forgive her anyway. What do you think drives a person to tear someone down so brutally, especially in front of an audience? Let us know in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories that reveal what really happens when the masks come off and the cameras keep rolling.